It is said that the king has ruled out any idea of the Duke of Sussex having a part-time job. Our reporter in Europe, Ben Downey, has news. After a final, sad decision from the palace, Meghan Markle is now pleading directly with King Charles. This is a shocking turn of events that has shocked the royal world. It's over. Behind closed doors, stress built for months. But people close to the king say that his most recent decision has set a strong, unbreakable line. One Meghan didn't see coming. What did happen inside the royal walls? What makes the king so unwilling to give in? Come with us as we figure out what Meghan did to try to make King Charles happy. Meghan Markle never really thought that King Charles would make a final choice about her, but it has now. It happened quietly, privately, and with such a level of certainty that people who saw it said there was no room for debate, persuasion, or charm. Sources close to the palace say that King Charles has now made what they call his final choice about Meghan. That choice doesn't just shut a door, it ends a whole story. One that many people in the monarchy didn't think he would be brave enough to shut. I believe a lot of that is lost in the clickbait society, which can be very dehumanizing. Talk coming from those high-ceilinged palace rooms wasn't loud or passionate. There were no tense breaks or raised voices. They were calm, thought out, and said in Charles's strong, quiet voice, which he only uses when he is sure of himself. It's over. In the days before this, Charles was under more and more pressure to do something. First it was quiet, then it got louder. Friday through Sunday. The king gave Meghan more space and patience than many people thought she earned by giving her a chapter instead of a marriage or a title. It was a long, crazy, unpredictable chapter that began when she became a princess. That part of the story is now finally over. When Montecito heard the king's final choice, they reacted right away. People who know Meghan say she froze. Her team went into full fear mode, and Harry had no idea what was going on. The castle was completely clear for the first time in a very long time. There was no doubt, no room for error, and no fear of the backlash that was sure to happen. Insiders say that Prince William was very angry that Meghan kept using her HRH style for years even though the late Queen Elizabeth II told her not to. Charles wasn't trying to make things better this time, though. He wasn't trying to find a middle ground. He wasn't trying to keep the peace, which was something he had done for many years. This time, Charles made a choice that he can't change. If you're the Prince of Wales of the heir, you can't be the same as the sovereign. One that shuts the door all the way. The palace calls it a required final boundary that sets the stage for everything else. A rule that Meghan never thought Charles would follow. A line that changes everything. A lot of people forget. William once said that Harry would have to do something very special to show up at the crowning. A sign of how badly the family had broken up. Longtime family watcher, I don't think there is a way back. But what finally made Charles do something to understand that? You need to look. What has been going on behind the palace walls in the background for months? This wasn't caused by a single news story or video. It wasn't just one interview or public chat. It wasn't just one show or speech. It was a slow, steady design that you couldn't miss. Senior aides had been noticing that things were getting worse for a long time before anyone else did. People who work at the palace say that Charles was very worried about how Meghan was acting in recent public outings, brand teasers, and messages. There were hints of royal life, carefully chosen words that made it sound like she still had a link to the royal family, and high-profile projects that made it hard to tell the difference between her personal brand and the royal legacy. In short, Meghan was setting herself up in a way that made it look like she was still inside the institution, even though she had left. After the outbreak and everything else, we definitely want to be able to get high. Now the results have come. Reports say that William is working on a big effort behind the scenes that could lead to a number of minor royals losing their titles. Words. That the monarchy is making its system stronger and getting ready for a future that is stricter and more organized. The king decided to stay calm at first. He didn't move quickly or emotionally. He did nothing but watch, listen, wait, and quietly hope that things would get better on their own. But then there was what people who work in the palace now call the final wave of warning signs. The moment when everyone understood that things were no longer safe. It began with the launch of a new brand, then a well-rehearsed public speech, a series of high-profile meetings, and an unexpected international campaign that shocked top officials when they realized what it really meant. Catherine, on the other hand, hit the king very hard on one topic. It became very clear that Meghan was still abusing her power as a princess. Its past, symbols, and status, even after they are no longer royal duties. Aides started to tell King Charles behind closed doors that this was becoming a major threat to the family's reputation. To lower prices and make life cheaper for families. Something that would quickly get out of hand if they didn't do something soon. One aide told the king straight out, "Your Majesty, this won't stop on its own." That's when everything changed. For the first time, every top advisor agreed with everything. This included media teams, lawyers, and senior protocol officers. It was important for the monarchy to act quickly and effectively. Not next month. Not after the next move for PR. No, not after the next mess. Now, because they were afraid that Meghan would change the whole royal story by tomorrow if they didn't set a firm limit today. King Charles made a choice then, behind closed doors and away from everyone else. Reporters close to the family say Meghan made the decision years before she heard the words she never thought would come from the palace again. It's over. Charles's secret talks. Once King Charles got the signals from his top advisors, he put the palace on a controlled, almost silent lockdown. There was nothing crazy or messy about the reaction, it was calm but clearly serious. Makes it clear that even though we may not all share the same past. Some people say that the king started a string of intense, high-level talks that lasted for several days. Was longer, more important, and more thorough than the last one. It wasn't a nice check-in. It was a crisis meeting with the institution's most important people. The Privy Council is made up of top communications leaders, legal strategists, protocol experts, and advisors who only show up when the monarchy is in danger for a long time. Someone said Charles walked into the room with a calm but strong demeanor. Strong enough to let you know that he knows the answer before anyone else does. There were papers all over the tables. Timelines were looked at. We looked at Meghan's public outings, brand strategies, interviews, and small references to royal life, line by line and frame by frame. There are a lot of different kinds of people in it, and it's like a sweet love story. Someone told you, "Sir, if you don't act now, you'll lose control of the story about the king." Someone else said that Meghan's growing power in the US could cause chaos around the world. Two kinds of monarchy, one that is recognized and one that is not. Charles paid close attention. He wasn't mad or impatient, but he was determined in a way that not even his closest aides saw coming. The mood in the room changed by the end of the last meeting. The house could no longer hold out for the next doc. The next leak, the next well-put-together TV show. They wouldn't act with a news release or a quiet reminder. Instead, they would make a choice that was so clear and firm that it could not be changed. People who were there say the king finished the meeting with a quiet word that made it feel like the end of a book. "We need to end this story." Not long after that, the monarchy's machinery began to work. Papers were written. Notifications were made, and a covert courier was sent. What did Meghan say in response to what the king said? Let's find out. Meghan knew it was over at that moment. King Charles's final choice didn't come with a royal ceremony, a formal letter in a velvet envelope, a press release, or a polite warning. It was just made. It was given in a way that made it clear that it was clear what it was. This message was only for Meghan. Some people who were there say Meghan was completely caught off guard. At first, I wasn't mad or upset, I was just shocked. She read the message slowly the first time and then again. It hit her then. People inside the house say Meghan's voice quickly changed from being confused to disbelieving. "I believe you are very sure that it was ordered by God. Maybe this whole thing about our friendship is turning into art." She became very scared and then demanded answers. She asked who agreed with the choice. She was curious to know if Harry knew about it. She said that there had to be a misunderstanding, but there wasn't because this palace choice was final, unlike others that were changed behind the scenes through quiet corrections, distance, and moving things apart. There was no discussion or appeal. There were no soft words to ease the blow. It was over. And it got there just the way the king wanted it to. One person who knew her said that her response shocked everyone. Meghan had no idea this would happen. Not right now. Not this way. She always thought that one day, the palace would leave a small window open for her. A chance to come back. A chance to write the story over again. A chance to fix what went wrong. That's not what this ruling did at all. That window was slammed shut for good. 40 friends to give up 40 minutes of their time to help a woman who was getting ready to go back to work as a guide. People who were there say Meghan started to pace around the room, and her steps became jerky and uneven. As she tried to figure out what had happened, her voice shook. She was curious about who had a say in what the king did. Who wanted such a firm choice to be made and why it was being made now? Everything about her changed when she realized this wasn't an advice or a warning, but a final statement. It was very sad, very angry, and very betrayed. There were tears. She was really scared that this was a turning point that she couldn't go back and change. Meghan wasn't just ignored or pushed to the side for the first time since she stopped being a royal. She was cut off totally. The calls, texts, and attempts to control the story that followed, along with her attempts to calm down, showed how upset she really was. The palace had finally drawn a line, and Meghan was clearly on the other side of it for the first time. What did Harry say in response? Did he feel the same way? How about we take a better look? Harry's unexpected answer. But Meghan wasn't the only one who felt this choice's weight. Prince Harry was the one who felt it the most. Insiders say he was told before Meghan, but it wasn't because he was being rushed or because she was being fired. But because King Charles thought Harry should hear it from him directly, not from a leak or a news story. That small act of kindness, though, led to something much worse and more painful. People who were there say Harry's response was a mix of shock, anger, and a deeper psychological realization that he could never fully protect the two worlds, no matter what he did. My brother is the heir and I am the extra. Since 2018, he had been trying to stay together. When the king told Harry about the choice, he argued back, but not in a loud or angry way. He asked for some time. He asked his dad to think again. He thought about whether the choice could be softer, put off, or sound less harsh. King Charles wouldn't move, though. A top aide said that the king's voice was calm, steady, respectful, and unwavering. Insiders say that's when Harry finally saw something he had been avoiding for years. His dad wasn't just making a line between the house and the rest of the world. He was making a distinction between Meghan and the system. Everything in Montecito changed right away when Harry finally told Meghan the news. Harry, like Meghan, shed tears because he knew that no matter what happened, he would be put back in the part he hated the most. It kind of dips in and out of being serious. You're a funny person. Yep, I find myself funny. The link between two worlds that didn't want to get together anymore. As one writer put it, Harry wasn't just mad at King Charles. He was broken up. That this wasn't fixable. Not now. There has always been friction between a father and his son, but this moment made it even worse. It's quiet, hurts, and goes so deep that no one on either side knows how to fix it. It was the same thing that everyone in the palace was whispering behind closed doors, in those private times that he never talks about. What does that mean for Meghan's future if the king has really made his last and final choose? Let's find out. What will happen next for Meghan? Everyone has been guessing, talking about, and thinking about this moment for years. It has finally come. King Charles has given an official, written, institution-level order for the first time since Meghan left royal life. It is very strict. That there is no way to argue, negotiate, or change your mind. Palace insiders say that this final choice is based on three main points, each of which is more important than the last. First, Meghan will not be able to talk about, imply, or connect herself to the royal family in any future projects, brands, or media outlets without getting written permission from the palace. That is, the time of gray zone royal branding, when she could imply a link without getting clear permission, is over. Any royal favors or perks that were still in place have been taken away completely. These were only small, unofficial benefits that the family rarely talks about. Perks like free travel, symbolic connections, and quiet entry into certain groups have all quietly gone away. One person who knows about it said it was a resetting of limits that should have been set years ago. From now on, Meghan will not have the house to protect her from breaking news around the world. When there are disagreements, there won't be any calming words, changes made behind the scenes, or diplomatic padding. She will be able to stand on her own for the first time. One advisor said it straight out, this isn't punishment without the palace's silent backing. It's likely that you'll hear this phrase a lot this week. It means look, in this case, it's to keep the organization safe. However, whispers had a sharper tone inside the house. When the papers were signed, those who saw them said it wasn't just setting limits, it was sealing them. This wasn't just a temporary sign. Or just for show, it was final. This changes everything for Meghan. For everyone. It was clear what the message was all around the king. The story is over. Even though the writing is strict, it only tells half the story. The other half is given without any sound. The level of quiet that the royalty has honed over hundreds of years. What really scared Meghan was that silence. Insiders say that King Charles didn't include a long explanation, a soft introduction, or any other kind of peace offering. He didn't say anything, just let the document talk for itself. And everyone inside the palace walls knew what it meant. It's no longer defense time for the Queen. Senior royals had been trying to stay cool for years, taking criticism in stride, avoiding conflict, and hoping things would settle down on their own. But this choice is a turning point. A top courtier made it very clear. No longer does silence mean safety. Now, silence means a line. It's very clear where that line is. The palace sent a clear message by taking away Meghan's rights, monitoring her use of royal identity, and declining to represent her in future problems. The message did not need to be signed or explained. No longer will the throne be a way to build a personal brand. There is no need for anger or vengeance here. It is built up. According to a source close to the king, his goal wasn't Meghan herself, but the pattern she represented and any future patterns like it. Meghan may have thought at first that this was just a short break or a PR chill, but it's now official. This isn't a fight with family. It has to do with tradition. Legacy and power over the story of the royal family. In that story, Meghan has finally gone from being a royal figure to a private person, with all the rules that comes with that. The house doesn't have to say it out loud. It already does in the paper. This part of the story is over. It happened at our house a few weeks ago, at the beginning of this month. And a new one starts without her touch. From the outside, this may just look like another big news story, a private fight, or the continuation of the royal feud, but it has much deeper meanings. Royal experts say that King Charles's choice has to do with the next 10 years, the next generation, and the stability of the monarchy in the long run. The palace thought for years that Harry, Meghan, and their children, who are younger royals, could live on the edges of the institution without upsetting its basis. That assumption is slowly falling apart. The rise of influencer culture, the mixing of royalty and celebrities, the commercialization of personal stories, and the focus of the media around emotional stories have all put pressures on the government that it was never meant to handle. With her Hollywood background, huge global fan base, and ability to make news, Meghan became the best example of how quickly these lines could blur. A wise person told us that if we don't set limits now, there won't be any limits left later. What could Meghan do next? Let's find out. What Meghan will do next. People thought King Charles was too gentle, too careful, and too ready to leave doors open for months. But this time, it showed something very different. Charles takes strong action when the crown's honor and image are at risk. Fans of Meghan think that his decision is harsh, even if it means ending a romance that got a lot of attention. Some people say it's long time. The palace thinks it's important. It was never about making Meghan feel bad. It was to keep the throne safe from a future where people outside the school could shape its image, identity, and meaning instead of people inside it. People inside the company were shocked not because the choice was shocking, but because it was final, long-lasting, and strategic. It wasn't meant to be today. It was built to keep the family safe for many years to come. There is one thing that everyone in the house knows. Meghan Markle doesn't keep quiet when she's being pushed. As soon as she realized that King Charles's choice was final, unchangeable, and could not be undone, her whole team acted right away. Let me tell you a story that will help you understand why I'm here and what I do for UN women. Sources say Meghan called her US-based advisors right away to talk about the situation, not days or hours later. A lot of people rushed to look at the problem, including PR experts, brand managers, lawyers, and media contacts. Meghan knows more about people than almost anyone else. In her world, being quiet means you lost. The first goal was to limit the harm. Advisors thought about putting out a carefully worded statement that called the palace's choice harsh or out of date, but they knew that would be risky. A big interview, a new documentary, or a well-known speech were some of the other ideas that came up. Taking on institutional problems without naming the government in a sneaky way. Insiders say the next idea was the scariest because it could make things worse by using future brand projects to change the story, which Meghan has done before when she's feeling under a lot of pressure. One writer gave a blunt description of the mood. They weren't going to be calm. They were making plans to fight back. This is the task. Because Charles put limits on Meghan, she can't talk about the royal family without getting in trouble. She can't depend on the monarchy anymore, so she has to start over with her public plan. There was agreement on one thing among the advisors, some said to be careful and others said to get even. Meghan won't keep quiet if she feels backed up. This is more than just a big screw-up for her. It's a battle over stories. Her strongest power is shown in this area. We don't know what will happen next. It could either stop this problem or make it worse. It wasn't a fight, a meeting, or a public statement that people will remember most. After all the papers were signed, sealed, and added to the official record, the sentence was quietly given behind closed doors. Mr. and Mrs. Bridges, thank you for coming. Good evening, ladies and gents. Tenna. According to people who know, someone left that room, took a deep breath, and said two words that are now being heard all over royal discussion. It's over. It wasn't exciting. It wasn't emotional. It was just over. King Charles's choice wasn't just a temporary limit or a show of support. It was a lasting structural choice that ended a part of Meghan's life that she thought she could go back to. The house is not waiting for peace to be reached. You can't go back, get a second chance, or work together again. There was a line in the sand here. It means that Meghan will have to figure out how to live her life without royal safety or company. This makes the gap between Harry's family he was born into and the one he made even bigger. Apologies or calls can't close that gap. It shows that protecting the throne is more important than personal ties for King Charles than being patient. It's also a historic moment for the organization itself. But how does the rest of the world feel about this decision? Let's find out. The backlash around the world. The palace walls were never meant to let the word get out about King Charles's final choice. It was meant to stay a closely guarded secret that would only be shared at Buckingham Palace and the walls of Montecito. But choices this important, this final, and this significant almost never stay secret for long. In just a few days, the whispers got louder, the rumors spread, and soon there were leaks. Reporters who were interested showed up in places they hadn't before and asked pointed, strange questions. Royal observers noticed small changes in the official language. The story was picked up by international media like sharks that can smell blood in the water. The final ruling started to show up in news stories. At first, it was only mentioned in cautious and speculative accounts. Then the stories got bolder and used insiders from the palace to back them up. What was meant to be a private matter became news all over the world in an instant. Analysts talked about it on morning shows. Royal observers said it was the end of an era. Editors rushed to get quotes from insiders that would explain the king's thinking. Some news stories seemed to feel sorry for Meghan. Some people were cruel. It was clear to almost everyone what the truth was. Meghan Markle's friendship with the royal family had broken down to the point where it could never be fixed. The mood quickly changed inside Montecito. After panic, damage control took over, and this quickly turned into a defensive plan. Meghan's team started keeping an eye on every story and online trend to get ready for the global wave that was bound to happen. Experts said that all of this attention would have effects on her image, her brands, her relationships, her future projects, and her ability to tell her own story without the royal family getting in the way. Then I said, okay, I've always loved sharing. I've loved all my life. When everyone thinks a door is shut, she has to watch every move she makes with that in mind. One person who was there said it was like an earthquake for the company's image, the kind that can change how people see it for years. And there was quiet in the palace, the kind of silence that says more than words. It was easy to understand. The government could go on without her, but Meghan wasn't going to keep quiet behind the gates of Montecito. A counter-strategy was already taking shape. Insiders say it's risky, well thought out, and could go off at any time. Things were just getting worse, and her next move could start a storm. Montecito took action while the house stayed still and controlled in silence. Meghan Markle has a very clear idea of one thing. Hesitation is dangerous when the story turns against you. You turn quickly and sharply. According to people who know her, she started making a thorough plan right away, not just for how the public would react, but also for her long-term survival and power. There was no longer fear. This was planning at work. Her team broke up the disaster into pieces that were easier to handle. Public image, company positioning, media opportunities, legal limits, and emotional power. There was a war room set up with screens that showed news cycles, social sentiment charts, trending analytics, and the responses of influential people. They made a map of 3 different routes. 1. A quiet reset, going out in public with cool composure and no defensiveness or confrontation, letting her subtle grace make people feel sorry for her. Option 2. Narrative reclamation, which could be a controlled media appearance, a feature, or a documentary segment that shows the systemic problems she faced and uses the king's choice to represent the institution she left behind. Option 3. The direct counterattack. This is a strong, direct statement that hints at unfairness and slightly questions the monarchy's power, stepping up the fight. People who know her team say that this is the way they secretly prefer. Controversy gets people's attention. Getting attention leads to power. But Meghan doesn't just have to deal with problems at the palace. It's the rules that Charles has set up. She can't make hints about royal ties, symbols, or her name without getting in trouble or even being sued. This rule goes against everything that makes her brand unique, which was partly based on being close to the royal family. A planner close to her said it straight out: she needs to build her platform without the thing that helped her get to the top. Meghan is carefully thinking about what she will do next behind the scenes. Every step must abide by the king's rules and not go beyond them. Because starting now, one mistake could make the gap too big to fix. Control could be regained with a smart, well-thought-out move. Change how people see things. And somewhere in Montecito, between planning meetings and emergency meetings, Meghan made a choice that no one on her team expected. Insiders say that a choice could have made them change their minds. What do you think of Meghan's sudden move to make King Charles happy? Please tell us what you think in the comments. Remember to like and subscribe.